Kishibe! Hop on the beat!
Welcome back to another JoJo chapter review. This time we'll be taking a look at the newest chapter made by Araki, Thus Spoke Kishibe Rohan episode 10, Hot Summer Martha. This chapter released in the first issue of the JoJo magazine earlier this month. In my previous video, I went over everything that was included in the issue, as well as some future upcoming JoJo announcements. In this video, I'll be taking a more in-depth look at the chapter now that it's been translated. This chapter is 71 pages long, making this the longest Rohan story other than Rohan at the Louvre. It's also the first chapter that Araki has written since the end of JoJolion back in August. The story begins on July 7th, 2021. Rohan is now living through the COVID-19 pandemic and has adopted a dog named Bakeen. While feeding Bakeen, he accidentally breaks a jar of his food in the kitchen. He gets on a conference call with his editor Izumi to discuss a design from his manga. Izumi first appeared in the chapter Millionaire Village, and this makes her the first character that is original to Thus Spoke Kishibe Rohan to appear in more than one chapter. She ended up playing a larger role in the TV drama adaptation, where she appeared in all 6 episodes, so I wonder if that had an impact on Araki's decision to bring her back. They talk about a creature design for his new manga chapter called Hot Summer Martha. The design is black-colored and made up of 3 spheres. Izumi is concerned that the 3 circles design will remind people of Mickey Mouse and lead to copyright concerns. However, Rohan is completely against altering the design since he feels like it's original. Rohan is distracted outside by an obsessive fangirl named Eve who keeps trespassing in his yard. While he's distracted, he accidentally knocks over an inkwell and ruins his manuscript. Rohan starts complaining about the pandemic and says that his mask is making it hard to concentrate. He starts lamenting that since there's a lockdown, he hasn't been able to go anywhere or do research for his manga. He takes Bakeen out for a walk and ends up in a temple that he hasn't been to before. He looks at the temple's sacred tree, but wonders why the older tree nearby isn't the sacred one. After moving some rocks, he finds a shrine with a mirror inside the hollowed out tree. After he gets near the mirror, he feels relaxed for a moment and then decides to head back home. Once he's home, however, he finds the jar from earlier unbroken in the fridge, and a ton of unread messages on his phone. Then he finds that Bakeen has destroyed his chew toys and is growing teeth earlier than expected. Once he gets to his desk, he finds the manuscript for Hot Summer Martha has been completed, and now the character has 4 circles instead of 3. He confronts Izumi over a conference call about why the design was changed, but she's confused since he had already handed the manuscript to her 2 weeks ago. Rohan sees a shadow behind him and discovers Eve undressed in his bedroom, acting as if she's been living with him. He looks back at security camera footage and finds someone who looks just like him leading Eve into his house. After Eve comes back to his room to introduce him to her pet crocodile, Rohan uses Heaven's Door on her and discovers that the date is October 7th, and that time has jumped forward 3 months. He runs back to the shrine where he meets 2 priests. After he asks them about the tree, they tell him that it is inhabited by a spirit called the Yabubako Hoshi. Once Rohan's reflection was caught in the mirror under the tree, the spirit became a dark copy of Rohan and assumed his life for the next 3 months. He asks them how he can reverse time, but they say he can't. But if he were to rotate the mirror without being seen in it, then the actions of the spirit would be overwritten. Rohan uses Heaven's Door to enter the tree and rotate the mirror unseen. But once he returns home, he realizes that 3 months have passed again and that it's now January 7th. He finds Bakeen fully grown, having just attacked Eve's pet crocodile. He's almost attacked himself, but after Bakeen realizes it's him, he starts cowering. Once he gets to his office, he's horrified to see that there's already been a figure created of the new Hot Summer Martha design. He realizes that Heaven's Door entering the shrine at all still resulted in its presence being felt. He finds Izumi unresponsive in the closet with an injection mark on her neck, and Eve sneaks up behind him and drugs him. She reveals that she drugged Izumi since she was jealous of her being allowed to enter Rohan's house. Eve is shown to be pregnant with Rohan's baby, and plans to let Izumi die so that the 2 of them will be considered accomplices in her death and he'll be forced to stay with her. She also becomes somewhat aware of Rohan's ability and keeps her distance to stop him from using it on her. Rohan uses Heaven's Door to open himself and tells her that she can see if he really loves her by reading his book. Once she gets close, he uses Heaven's Door to command her to go to the shrine and rotate the mirror. Rohan notices the syringe on the ground disappearing, showing that the spirit's actions were undone. He finds the new copy of Eve outside and gives the now healed crocodile back to her. Izumi is also revived and thinks that she had just fallen asleep, so she says bye to Bakine and leaves. Rohan notices that the design from Hot Summer Martha is unchanged, and that it was actually Izumi who altered it and not his copy. After this, the chapter ends. Overall, I absolutely loved this story. Like with all of the stories from Thus Spoke Kishibe Rohan, it was extremely unique and really allowed Araki to be creative. The most interesting thing about this chapter is the setting, since this is the first Araki story to feature the pandemic. JoJolion was set in 2011, and its story was largely influenced by the powerful Tohoku earthquake that took place in the same year. The way the pandemic was featured in this story was very similar, and I think it did a good job of getting across the isolation that Araki likely felt at that time. This is also notably the first time that a Rohan story has been known to be set after Part 6, making this the confirmed farthest chronological point in the original JoJo timeline. There was some confusion lately about what this implies about the Part 6 ending. I won't get into the whole spoilery talk here, but if you're interested, I did have a response to this topic on Twitter. Needless to say, people are misinterpreting the ending of Part 6. This story's existence makes perfect sense to fit within the timeline as we know it. I was also very happy to see the return of Izumi, since she was always one of my favorite original characters from the spin-off, and I loved the way her role was expanded in the TV drama. Her banter with Rohan over the call and her tampering with the design is a great example of why I love her character. Hopefully she'll continue to appear in some of the upcoming stories. The main supernatural foe in this story was also very fitting. I feel like it's one of the scarier ones we've seen in the series, even though its actions are completely indirect. It's pretty scary to imagine an evil clone of you taking over your life, and then having to come back to the consequences of its actions. But in a classic folklore sort of way, it also has a fun set of rules that you have to obey to undo it, which leads to the normal Rohan story fun. The way that it inhabits the shrine definitely brings to mind the blessings from the earth that appear in parts 7 and 8. It's yet another great addition to the collection of supernatural forces in JoJo. I also really enjoyed the new character Eve, who quickly went from cute to creepy in a very JoJo-esque way. Rohan's new pet Bakine is also very cute, and I hope that the now fully grown dog will start to reappear in later chapters. And of course, Rohan himself is the one who steals the show in his own spin-off. As always, his personality and reactions to the world around him are so enjoyable. First of all, I find it hilarious that Rohan got a COVID pet. It was also funny to see him complaining about his mask while also wearing one when he's by himself in his office on a Zoom call. And then the dirty looks he's giving to people coughing and breathing near him outside. The pandemic is honestly a perfect setting for Rohan's antics. Stuff like this is what reminds me of why he was such a perfect choice for the spin-off series in the first place. However, that's not the only Rohan content we're getting. We've also learned that yet another Rohan chapter will be coming out in Ultra Jump next month. It's titled Episode 11, Drip Painting Style Part 1, making this the first ever multi-part chapter in the Rohan series. I'm definitely wondering what kind of story it might tell to warrant 2 chapters, as well as whether the second chapter will come out in Ultra Jump the very next month. Once it's released, you can expect that I'll be reviewing it alongside the new Crazy Diamond's Demonic Heartbreak chapter that releases in the same issue. This is a pretty rapid pace for new Rohan chapters, since now we can expect 3 of them within just a few months' time. Previous Rohan chapters released at least a year apart, and often more. The last chapter to release, The Run, came out back in 2018, which feels like ages ago now. In fact, that was even before I started making really big videos. It seems that during this rest period between JoJolion and JoJo Lands, Araki's taking the time to greatly expand on the spin-off series, as well as allowing all the other recent spin-offs to shine. Just since the ending of JoJolion, we've gotten Cool Shock Old BT and more Rohan short stories in October. The Stone Ocean anime, the start of Demonic Heartbreak, the Fujiko one-shot, and a continuation of the Rohan TV drama all in December, and now March with new Stone Ocean anime announcements and the release of the JoJo magazine. Now April is shaping up to be yet another big month. I believe that once the second part of Drip Painting Style has released, presumably in May, we'll start to hear news about when we'll be getting JoJo lands. In the meantime, I'm definitely happy with all of the new content we're getting. If you want to be updated on new videos and chapters or leave suggestions, join the Shaman Beat Discord using the link in the description. To receive rewards like Discord perks and some uncut videos, you can support the channel on Patreon. And finally, for future videos, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. This is the part of the video where I thank my $5 and up patrons. Thank you to Tony, the Owl God, Keo, Alex Ramirez, Doorbell, Monkman, Ashton Joseph Miller, Crayon, Jesper Jansen, Rigo Vids, Zukato, Shane Giger, Sentai, Pumpkin Doge, Marrow, Bailey Smile, Ali, Almighty Quarth, Oof, PBA SVG, Cowrie, Jojo Agogo, Toby Nocturne, and Tucker Gold.